So I have a question to start out for you today. If something very dramatic or powerful happens in or around your life, and somebody was not there to experience it, how do we make the case today that it happened? What are the things we do to make the case for what has happened? Dramatic, powerful things. What are various ways we make the case? Newspaper. Who said newspaper? Nice. Newspaper. That's a little bit old-fashioned, but newspaper. That's true. So if we were to stick with that idea, besides newspaper, what other avenues like that exist? So newspaper, what else? How do you get your news? Internet. Thank you very much. Internet. How else do we share news? Television. Very good. So that's probably the more modern news. Good. Well, what about on a personal level? Something has happened in your life. How do you tell the story to other people that it happened who were not there? You show them. Who said pictures? Thank you. But even beyond pictures, everybody has a piece of collection, evidence collection in their pocket right now. Most of you have a smartphone. How many of you take your smartphone out and shoot video? Anyone ever shot video with your phone? Okay, nod, show me you're alive. Anybody take pictures? Does anybody have wedding pictures? Baptism pictures? Yes. Think about the ways we tell stories of special events to people who cannot be present. I have in hospitals had multiple people pull out their phones for FaceTime to film the final blessings of life of people they love because they cannot be there. As we bless a body, as that body is preparing for death, that is a huge time to be together as family. And so I have had people jerk their phones out, turn them on, and live FaceTime exactly what we are doing in the hospital. And the reason is, it is a powerful thing to be part of a sacred moment. And that is what our story in the gospel is all about. It is about the power of sacred moments. It's the early church. Christ has risen from the dead. The church is not fully organized. It is absolutely in chaos. They are still trying to figure out what has happened. And so it is sometime a week or two after the resurrection. And there's some differences when Jesus makes two appearances in this story. It talks about how first when Jesus appears, it says the disciples are locked in a room for fear of the Jews. They're afraid to talk about what has happened. They're still not sure who may believe them, but they're afraid for their safety. They're gathered in anxiety and fear, and the good news is they're all together, except for one of them, Thomas. It doesn't say what Thomas was doing. Maybe he went to the market to get bread. Maybe he had to go to the bathroom. Who knows? But Thomas was not there when Jesus appeared to the group. And the group was anxious and nervous because it says they were locked in a room. The doors were locked and they were gathered together. I think today the church is still somewhat gathered in fear and locked behind rooms, not so certain about what's going on in the world around us. I know sometimes I worry about what I say and how I say it to people. I wonder how they'll receive the message. There's still anxiousness in the church. But even more so, there are still many people who are not present in the moments of sacred happenings. There are more people out there than there are in here. And the people who are outside of the church, outside of the resurrection, they are still saying, kind of like Thomas, unless I put my finger in his hands, in his side, and see this resurrection, I cannot believe. We still live in a world that perhaps has missed the appearance of Jesus in the resurrection. Our job is, how do we share this dramatic event with them? In the text, I love the way the story continues. So there are some unwritten things that occur, and chiefly what happens that I am drawn to is Thomas is not cast out of the group. Thomas is not criticized. He's not made fun of. He is embraced for verbalizing and speaking out loud his own doubt. Thomas would not have seen Jesus when Jesus comes back the second time in the story if the group would have said, Thomas, you have been one of us for so long. How would you think we would lie to you? You cannot stay with us anymore. You don't have faith that is good enough to believe us? Then get out. If you can't listen to our word and believe us, then leave us. We would not lie to you. That's not at all what they do. I think that is love and grace in its greatest manifestation for a group, and especially for someone who within the group missed a special moment. They make sure Thomas remains with them. Because as the story continues, it says 1 week later, Jesus appears again, and Thomas was with them. Think of the tragedy that would have occurred for Thomas if they would have thrown him out because he wasn't good enough, or he didn't believe enough, or he didn't have faith. There's some of you in this room right now that have been through moments of doubt. There are some of you in this room right now who at periods of your life, you didn't know about the resurrection. You didn't see the risen Lord. There are some of you in this room right now who absolutely have been told by other people, please don't come. Please don't be here. You're not the right way for us. Maybe you don't look the right way or act the right way or don't give money or you don't have a good enough understanding or you're just not smart enough to understand this resurrected Jesus. People are told this in the world today. But in our story, we know Thomas was still loved. Thomas was still embraced in the group. Even though he missed that moment, he was still part of the community of faith. And that is good news. It is good news because when Jesus comes back, and Thomas had the courage to speak out loud, what was he doubting? He spoke that I cannot believe it unless I touch Jesus. And when Jesus comes back, he addresses Thomas and says, touch my hands. Put your hand in my side. And then Jesus gives us this beautiful message for us to hang on to, because we didn't see the resurrection. And Jesus says, are you believing because you see? Blessed are those who believe and have not seen. But that brings me around to this question. In the grace that I hope exists in our church at Zion Lutheran, and in your life as a Christian couple or a Christian single or whatever it is you are, mom or dad or a child, and what I hope exists in your life is the ability to draw people in with your story and your testimony of having seen the risen Christ at work in you or around you. Just like we talk about the ways we testify to sacred and holy moments in the culture today. Pictures, videos, news, we're all about proving what happened in the world around us. My question is, as church and as believers, how do we maintain relationships with others who can't quite see, touch, or believe our faith? And how we got to the point where we are at. Because people look at us when they see faith exist and they wonder, how did that happen? How do you maintain that faith? And for us, we want to keep them a part of our group. We want to allow them to be close to us and near us. And we definitely want to welcome them into our doors, so that as we continue to experience the resurrection of Christ in many ways, because here's the amazing thing, once you believe in the resurrection of Christ, once you believe in this Jesus, suddenly it becomes more and more likely you will see that happening in other places in your life and around you. You know, a stove is hot, and when you touch it, you get burned. The solution is to stop touching a hot stove. We know what hurts us in life. We know the things we are supposed to avoid, and it works conversely as well. We should remember that as we gather, sometimes right here in this building, right during worship, dramatic things happen. I'll grant you, the resurrection Christ in flesh and blood does not come to us and say, touch my hands, put your hand in my side. But powerful things happen in worship. We experience God speaking to us, being with us. And if nothing else, if we always feel welcome here, we have a safe, loving place. And so for us, we continue to gather, even with people who don't believe. We welcome people who have not had our experience. We open the doors and we make them unlocked so that people gather. We reduce fear and anxiety in our churches by doing all of that and saying all are welcome. And in the text, one of the great differences between the first appearance of Jesus and the second appearance of Jesus 1 week later, the doors were not locked. The doors were not locked 1 week later. Fear was reduced because the text does not say they were in fear. And so for us, as we share as witnesses to the resurrection, we welcome all. We unlock the doors to the church to make sure that even those who have doubt know they are welcome. And we continue to expect Christ to come and in some way say the very words he spoke each time he came, peace be with you. Today, I say to you, peace be with you. In your life, where you are experiencing God's resurrected power, I ask you to share that with someone else. If you ever have trouble in this church with feeling welcome, please tell me, because our doors are unlocked and open for all. And as we gather, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, greets, meets, and is given to each one of us. It's good news. We still have more people out there wondering what and how than we do in here. But by your words and by your welcome, we can share the risen Christ with them. Amen. I invite you to rise as we sing.